Last bid was $1,200.
$2,500. My money as good as anybody's.
They weren't just actors, they were architects of their own empires. While others spent their paychecks on mansions and champagne, these men turned movie stardom into generational wealth. From silent film geniuses to silver screen cowboys, they proved that Hollywood wasn't just about fame. It was about ownership, discipline, and foresight. Some built fortunes from scratch. Others turned laughter, music, and grit into business empires that still make money today. These are the 10 richest male actors of old Hollywood, the men who didn't just play legends, they became them. Clark Gable, known to the world as the King of Hollywood, ruled the silver screen with effortless charm and masculine confidence. From Gone with the Wind to It Happened One Night, his commanding presence made him one of the most bankable stars of his era. But behind the debonair smile and tailored suits was a man who understood the true value of his fame. After World War II, Gable was no longer content to be a studio pawn. He demanded higher pay, negotiated independent contracts, and became one of the first major stars to seek percentage points on film profits. His star power gave him leverage few others possessed, and he used it wisely. Gable earned staggering salaries, $120,000 for Gone with the Wind alone, equal to millions today, but it was his ownership mindset that built long-term wealth. He invested heavily in California real estate, particularly ranch land in Encino and oil leases in the San Joaquin Valley, both of which appreciated dramatically. A licensed pilot and outdoor enthusiast, he treated his assets like his roles, strategically chosen, carefully managed, and always profitable. Though he lived like royalty, Gable maintained financial discipline, keeping his wealth growing quietly behind the glamour. When he died in 1960, his estate equated to nearly $100 million today, solidifying his reign as a king not just of Hollywood, but of his own destiny. Jimmy Stewart wasn't just America's moral compass on screen. He was one of the most quietly brilliant deal-makers behind it. Beloved for his sincerity in classics like It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Stewart's everyman persona masked a keen business mind. A decorated World War II pilot and disciplined leader, he brought that same precision to his career. In 1950, when most actors were happy to take a flat paycheck, Stewart did something revolutionary. He turned down a salary for the Western Winchester 73 and instead negotiated for a percentage of the profits. That decision, at the time dismissed as risky, became one of the smartest financial moves in Hollywood history. Stewart's wealth came from innovation, prudence, and diversification. The profit-sharing model he pioneered earned him more than any salary could have, setting a standard later used by stars like Burt Lancaster and Paul Newman. Beyond acting, Stewart invested heavily in aviation, insurance companies, and real estate, including commercial properties in California and Nevada. His financial discipline was military-grade. He lived modestly, avoided Hollywood excess, and ensured his wealth compounded over time. By the time he passed in 1997, his estate was worth roughly $120 million in today's value. Jimmy Stewart proved that integrity and intelligence were the two most valuable currencies in Hollywood. Cary Grant was Hollywood sophistication personified, suave, unshakable, and always one step ahead. Born Archibald Leach in poverty-stricken Bristol, England, he rose from street performances and vaudeville stages to become one of the most admired men in the world. But Grant's greatest performance may have been off-screen, as a master of financial independence. While every other leading man signed away their freedom to the studios, Grant refused. Instead, he became one of the first major actors to go fully independent, signing one-picture deals and negotiating for profit participation rather than fixed salaries. It was a bold move in the 1940s, and it changed his life. Grant's wealth grew through strategic control and conservative investing. He demanded back-end profits from hits like North by Northwest and To Catch a Thief, earning more than studio stars ever could from single salaries. Off-screen, he lived modestly and invested in stocks, real estate, and art, often alongside his friend Randolph Scott. He managed his money meticulously, balancing risk with reliability. Despite 5 failed marriages and personal struggles with identity, Grant's financial discipline never faltered. When he died in 1986, his estate was valued around $60 million, approximately $130 million today. Cary Grant didn't just act like the perfect gentleman, he negotiated like one, turning charm into compound interest. John Wayne wasn't just the face of the American West, he was the embodiment of old-school business grit. Known to millions as the Duke, he starred in over 170 films, crafting one of the most consistent box office legacies in movie history. But Wayne was far more than an actor. He was a builder, a producer, and a businessman who believed in owning what he created. He founded Bat Jock Productions in the early 1950s to produce and control his own films, breaking free from studio constraints that limited profits for most actors. That move turned Wayne from a Hollywood employee into a Hollywood entrepreneur. Wayne's fortune came from production ownership, real estate, and oil ventures. By keeping partial rights to many of his films, he earned royalties long after their release, a rare feat for the time. He also invested heavily in California real estate and oil exploration projects in Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico, both of which paid massive dividends. Despite his rugged cowboy image, Wayne approached money with methodical precision, reinvesting rather than overspending. His Newport Beach home and land holdings alone became multi-million-dollar assets. When he passed in 1979, his estate was valued near $175 million today, proving that even in the Wild West of Hollywood, John Wayne was always the one holding the reins. Bing Crosby was more than a crooner. He was an empire in a tuxedo. With his smooth baritone voice and easy charm, Crosby became one of the most popular entertainers of the 20th century, starring in more than 70 feature films and recording over 1,600 songs, including White Christmas, one of the best-selling singles in history. But Crosby wasn't just making music. He was building a financial foundation that would outlive him. Behind the calm smile was a visionary investor who treated every paycheck like seed money for something greater. Crosby's fortune came from diversification and technological foresight. He invested heavily in real estate, oil fields, racehorses, and cattle ranches, creating a business portfolio that spanned industries. But his smartest move came in the 1940s, when he financed early magnetic tape recording technology, the very invention that revolutionized broadcasting and allowed him to pre-record his radio shows. The profits and royalties from that innovation alone made him millions. He also owned stakes in sports teams and kept shares in his most successful TV and film projects. By the time he passed in 1977, his estate was worth around $50 million, equivalent to $200 million today. Bing Crosby didn't just sing about dreams, he invested in them. Bob Hope made the world laugh for nearly 8 decades, but behind the jokes was a man with a mind for money sharper than any punchline. With over 70 films, countless TV specials, and legendary USO tours that boosted troop morale through multiple wars, Hope was one of the most enduring entertainers of the 20th century. Yet while his peers splurged on parties and yachts, Hope quietly built a financial empire from the ground up. He understood something that almost no one in Hollywood grasped at the time. The biggest fortune wasn't in being on camera, it was in owning what the camera sat on. Hope's staggering wealth came primarily from real estate and long-term brand deals. Starting in the 1940s, he began buying undeveloped land in Los Angeles and Palm Springs for pennies on the dollar. As the population boomed, that worthless land became some of the most valuable property in California. He held thousands of acres, hotels, golf courses, and prime residential plots that multiplied in value for decades. He also pioneered celebrity sponsorships, signing multi-year deals with Pepsodent and Texaco that paid residuals long after his shows ended. Hope retained ownership of his TV specials, guaranteeing perpetual income from reruns and syndication. When he passed away in 2003, his estate was worth about $150 million, roughly $235 million today. Bob Hope may have been a comedian, but his wealth was no joke. Randolph Scott was the quiet cowboy who turned silver screen grit into golden wealth. With over 100 films to his name, Scott became one of the most dependable stars of the 1940s and 50s. On screen, he was stoic, heroic, and understated. Off-screen, he was strategic, patient, and remarkably disciplined. While others chased fame and excess, Scott focused on freedom and financial control. He refused long-term studio contracts, opting instead to work as an independent actor, allowing him to negotiate higher pay and profit shares. He treated his career like a business, and his business like a lifelong investment. Scott's wealth came from stocks, real estate, and long-term compounding. Early in his career, he began buying into the stock market when few entertainers understood its potential. His holdings, combined with his valuable Southern California real estate, appreciated exponentially as Los Angeles grew. He also shared a close friendship with Cary Grant, and the two frequently invested together, pooling resources into blue-chip portfolios and real estate developments. Scott famously lived without extravagance, preferring quiet luxury and financial prudence. When he passed away in 1987, his estate equaled roughly $100 million, about $260 million today. Randolph Scott never needed to play the rich hero. He was one, quietly outsmarting Hollywood at its own game. Fred MacMurray was the picture of wholesomeness on screen, but behind his calm, fatherly demeanor was one of Hollywood's sharpest financial minds. Best known for Double Indemnity and his 12-season run on My Three Sons, MacMurray built a reputation as a dependable leading man, professional, punctual, and completely unproblematic. But while others saw him as just the nice guy actor, he was quietly accumulating one of the largest personal fortunes in show business. He knew that fame was fleeting, but assets, those could last forever. MacMurray became rich through contracts, residuals, and real estate. His My Three Sons deal was groundbreaking. He was paid for an entire season's worth of episodes up front, allowing him to reinvest immediately, and he secured residual payments for decades of syndication reruns. He also forged a long and lucrative partnership with Disney, starring in hits like The Shaggy Dog and The Absent-Minded Professor, where he negotiated profit shares instead of flat fees. The real secret to his wealth, though, was land. MacMurray purchased a 1,750-acre cattle ranch in Sonoma County, a property that grew massively in value as California expanded. Known for his frugality and measured lifestyle, he turned consistency into capital. When he passed away in 1991, his estate was valued at roughly $150 million, around $322 million today. Fred MacMurray didn't just play the family man, he perfected the art of financial fatherhood. Charlie Chaplin may have played the tramp, but he was anything but poor. Beneath the cane, bowler hat, and slapstick brilliance was a creative genius who understood the value of ownership long before Hollywood did. By the 1910s, Chaplin had become the most famous entertainer on earth, his films transcending language, borders, and class. But unlike most stars of his time, he refused to be a studio puppet. He wrote, directed, edited, produced, and starred in his own films, maintaining complete creative and financial control. This independence made him not just an artist, but one of the most powerful businessmen in the entertainment world. Chaplin's wealth came from self-ownership and innovation. In 1919, he co-founded United Artists with Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith, giving performers control over the distribution and profits of their work. He owned the rights to his greatest masterpieces, The Kid, City Lights, Modern Times, and The Great Dictator. And those rights continue to generate royalties nearly a century later. Beyond filmmaking, Chaplin invested in real estate and international assets, including a stunning estate in Switzerland where he spent his later years. His films made him millions, but his foresight made him timeless. When he passed away in 1977, his estate was worth around $100 million, roughly $400 million today. Charlie Chaplin didn't just revolutionize comedy, he revolutionized how entertainers get paid. Gene Autry was more than just the singing cowboy. He was one of America's first entertainment moguls. At the height of his fame, he wasn't only starring in movies and recording chart-topping hits, he was building an empire. Over his career, Autry appeared in nearly 100 Western films, recorded over 600 songs, and became a household name through both radio and television. But what truly set him apart was his understanding that fame could be leveraged into ownership. While others settled for studio checks, Gene Autry built an infrastructure that made him money, whether he was performing or not. Autry's financial genius came from diversification and control. He didn't just star in media, he owned it. He founded and operated radio and TV stations, including KTLA in Los Angeles, which exploded in value as television took over America. His merchandising deals were decades ahead of their time. Toys, guitars, comics, and branded clothing all carried his name, earning him royalties independent of his film work. But his greatest move was purchasing the Los Angeles Angels baseball team in 1961, transforming his wealth into legacy. He also invested heavily in real estate, hotels, and ranch land, creating layers of revenue that outlived him. When he passed in 1998, his empire was valued around $320 million, about $580 million today. Gene Autry didn't just sing about the frontier, he owned it, one smart deal at a time. Each of them understood something their peers never did. Fame is temporary, but ownership is forever. These men didn't wait for the studios to make them rich. They made themselves rich. Their stories remind us that behind every timeless movie is a business built on strategy, courage, and foresight. They didn't just act in Hollywood. They owned their piece of it.